Godzilla vs. Kong, eh? It's a really great movie with a really cool kaijus. Too bad they make a Tide Pod reference.
In many ways, the work of a critic is easy. We risk very little, yet enjoy a position over those who often...
Dog, you don't get it. They called Godzilla vs. Kong bad. Whoa, what? Why did they call it bad? Look, it's right here. This movie is great if you only want to see King Kong and Godzilla fight. But aside from their much advertised matchup, there's not much else to it. What score did they give it though? Surely it can't be that. No. The life of a critic is a terrible life to live. Yep, I'm glad I'm not one. Nah, but I'm not talking about independent people like myself. I'm talking about people who work for media outlets. Imagine having constant deadlines and having to review several pieces of media a month. And when your review is what comes up when you type in a movie online, you most definitely make or break a watch for a lot of people. In other words, some millennials dictating the value of a multi-million-dollar project by summarising it in a Google Documents file and potentially costing the studio millions of dollars in the process. Which, I mean, is fair enough, it's the heart of the cards, really, but as a man who has judged a movie by review scores in the past, then went on to watch a movie and have it be in my top 10 movies of all time, I for one understand that movies are almost entirely subjective. But for the video, I will play along with the rules that have been present in the movie industry for the past 20 years, that being the emphasis on a high rating. But sometimes, there's just a straight up misinterpretation of a movie and lack of understanding from the critic's perspective, making for an illegitimate and unfair review. And if your review is from a place of inherent misunderstanding and time constraints, why would you make one in the first place? And the fact that the movie industry is incredibly oversaturated. You've usually got 2 to 3 weeks before a new movie comes out, and everyone collectively forgets about the last one. And when you've got a world moving this fast, it's easy to fall behind. Hence why media outlets force critics to review and critique, even if they have the crunch, and then there being the odd movie that falls between the cracks, getting a hilariously bad review. It could be detrimental. Also, I'm gonna make a hot take, okay? 90% of movies made nowadays are enjoyable. Yeah, I've said it. I have went to see a lot of movies in the theatre, paying £5 to go and watch them, and 90% of the time, I have a good time watching it, apart from when I watch an anime movie, where the audience screams and shouts and acts like children. Of course I'm gonna be influenced to like a movie. I don't wanna waste my money. Hey, but you see, if I'm biased towards liking a movie, because I spent money on it, and spent a part of my day watching it, surely that just skews my opinion one way, and surely that's as bad as a reviewer giving dodgy reviews willy-nilly. And you're partially right. As a viewer, if I go and watch a movie in theatres and I like it, chances are, I'll do more research about it after watching it. I might even watch it again. Anything to get a better understanding and a grasp on a movie that I like. And that's how a movie in my books would go from liked to loved. At least that's how it works for me. A bad movie could have a similar effect. Usually, I'd go online and see reception and see if other people think similarly to me. That validated my opinion. I watched Tenet in theatres when it came out and I didn't like it at all. I then went online, saw other people felt the same way, and I had my opinion validated. Reviews for the movie didn't validate my opinion, nor did it change my mind. And sure, Tenet scored kind of high, and this being an example of me openly disagreeing with a reviewer. I watched Incredibles years ago, I watched it again like a month or two later, went online and gushed about it for a while, watched a review that further cemented my opinion and my love for it. I also watched a Ben Stiller movie called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty and I loved it. The critics didn't love it though, and that's fair enough. They give a reasonable enough argument for not liking it. And you see, that's an opinion. And even if I disagree and think that a movie or two got a bad hand dealt to him by critics, that's an opinion. Part of what makes us unique. I enjoy Family Guy. I have a friend. I can call him, will he enjoy Family Guy? Do you like Family Guy?
No, fuck off.
And that's completely fine. However, there is a clear distinction made between me giving my opinion on a movie or cartoon and a media outlet giving their opinion. A media outlet being a massive conglomerate of tens of people all simultaneously assessing and grading creative properties is problematic because there is a degree of subjectivity when it comes to media. I say degree of because sometimes something's just objectively bad or worse, and adversely, when a movie is critically acclaimed, it's easier to scrutinise any minute detail. Speaking of scrutiny, for an independent creator like myself, there is much more accountability for a shoddy review. Like, I'll take for example, my Angry Birds video, a rather positively reviewed video, like to dislike ratio wise, RIP by the way, but the responsibility for that review falls onto my end. The comments I get are directly towards me. If I do a bad job with a video, my opinion will mean less in the future. That's how it works for a majority of creators. You can lose your credibility. But on the other hand, that's what gives pressure to make an accurate and fair review or opinion piece on media. Let's contrast that to media outlets, where several different people review different movies and games under one larger name. The first distinction I would make is that media outlets number the reviews to try and standardize their score, plus a 9 out of 10 sticks out more than, yeah, this movie's pretty good. The scoring system itself is flawed when you can watch a review and the movie is described like a 9 out of 10 and you end up with a 7 out of 10. However, you can watch a review and hear a 7 out of 10 game and then see the actual score end up being ludicrously high. There's also a problem with the numbering system in that you can pretty easily create a good movie and a bad movie, but how do you associate a number with a really average movie? Sure, you can give it a 5 out of 10, but that can be interpreted as average, or it can be interpreted as a fail. It depends how you look at it. Also, it doesn't stop the fact that studios will try and pay for high reviews, which I won't get into, but the second distinction is that there's less accountability for reviewers working under a media outlet. I know it'll say their Twitter at in a review, or in a really tiny font on the website, but you can still look at a score, and first and foremost it states the media outlet, the example I'll give here being IGN. The only one really held to account is IGN, and that's why their opinion is the least respected of any media outlet I know of. Okay, maybe not, maybe like GameSpot or something, but why GameSpot? Because their review of Godzilla vs. Kong is abysmal and deserves to be scrutinised. Notice how I said GameSpot and not Michael Roja, the man who wrote the review. And this review isn't good. You can read it for yourself, but the GameSpot review of Godzilla vs. Kong basically boils down to $100 million CGI fight is really awesome. The story may be really bad, but the fights were awesome. Go on to list arbitrary story flaw here. The GameSpot review does list a fair and just critique. However, where it falls flat is acting like it's a make or break for the movie, that the story isn't that important. Oh yeah, Godzilla vs. Kong is mediocre because of a non-compelling human story. Bruh, it's called Godzilla vs. Kong, not Godzilla vs. Kong, the human saga, or some stupid shit like that. The review score given to the movie was 5 out of 10. Supposedly mediocre. How are you gonna gossip the fight scenes in this movie, as they try to tear each other apart in a way that is almost unfathomable, and then they give it a 5 out of 10 because of a mediocre story? The story of the movie doesn't drag it down that much when all the advertising material conveyed that the main point of the movie was giant kaijus fighting. I hardly go to watch Rocky 3 to expect a musical. Heck, I'll even agree, the story is stupid. The stupid Tide Pod reference? Okay. You may as well reference Uganda Knuckles at that point. But anyways, the best way I can describe Godzilla vs. Kong is saying that it's a typical 2000s adventure movie, albeit with the CGI being incredible. 2000s adventure movie isn't even an insult. They're usually fun to watch, and we lack films like that today, as every producer is chasing the next Endgame or Inception. Also, in a modern environment, when most movies are good, naturally, the standards are going to be a lot higher, meaning you'll have to nitpick to really find a problem. Hence what happened here. When a mediocre story in a movie where the focus isn't on the story drags it down several points, not every viewer wants to have their minds blown. I hate this mindset that every movie has to be some cinematic gem that leaves you astonished even after watching it. Like, I watched the movie Shazam, and I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I didn't leave sobbing or feeling existential or anything, but I didn't need to. It was dumb fun. Dumb fun being the perfect description for this movie. It doesn't deserve a 10, mind you, but getting a 5? What? What's an entirely different problem is when you have a film that is a confusing mess and it gets reviewed higher than a movie that actually achieves what it goes for. But hey, I won't talk about that here. If you enjoyed watching, watch my last video if you haven't already. And if you don't want to watch that one, you can always watch another video, like the one I placed here. Flip. Anyways, like, subscribe, and have a great April. Onwards and upwards.